Day 15, meal 4. This is about 3.5 hours after our last discussion. We taught some classes, we got a little exercise in, a little bit of yoga in, had a little fun with my kids and Silvana, and now we're getting ready to have some dinner. And one of the things that happens in the process is you start to build up stuff. Like, okay, I've got a whole pile of spinach and kale and collard greens here, and there's some corn and peas and from a couple meals that I didn't eat. So I'm going to pour it all in. I'm going to make a stir fry. It's onions, green beans, a little bit of garlic, and then this mix. I've got some of this left over, this thing that you've seen a couple of times. So there just comes a time when everything's about done. We do two things. We make a stir fry, and then we add our protein source, which in this case is going to be salmon and shrimp. And the other thing we do is we make a soup. Now, the soup that we had been seeing there for a few days was really sustaining. But I made a mistake the other day that I burnt it. And so now it is basically food for the cat and dog. The cat and dog love the soup. And even if it's a little bit burnt, they like, it's like the best thing that they ever had. It has all the nutrients that they need, and it's kind of protein rich and nutrient rich, and they just absolutely love it. So I'm giving them a little bit of that soup now. There's a bone in it, and the dog's going to get the bone. Possibly tomorrow or Sunday, we'll start another soup from ground up. And whatever we don't use today will go into that soup. And my refrigerator is kind of starting to empty out here. I still have this bag of kale here. Down in here, I've got another bag of kale. But we're going to go ahead. We've got some tomatoes that we have to put to use. We have a few avocados we have to eat or do something with. We might mix those up with a little bit of lemon juice, put them in the refrigerator so that they'll save for a little bit. Let's go ahead and dump this in. And one of the secrets here is I always add a little bit of bouillon here. I'm going to add a beef and a chicken bouillon into that mix, and that's going to pick up the flavors really nicely. And then once that cooks a bit, then I've got this frozen salmon that we saw earlier. So I use frozen salmon, frozen scallops, and frozen shrimp. I also, the other day, you saw that I bought some freshly caught salmon across the street at our favorite little grocery store, Hall's Market, that's owned by our friends Dave and Jen Booth and their family for a long time. It's nice to know the people that you're getting stuff from. So even say a big chain store, that's run by a person that you can get to know, and the people that work there, even though it looks like a huge, ginormous factory of a food distributor, it's all run by people. It's really nice to the feeling of knowing where our food came from. Now, a little story that I was just then reminded of here is that a long time ago when I was in graduate school, I decided I wanted to have a unique experience with my internships. I searched high and low. I found somebody that I wanted to work with, who I wanted as a mentor. Instead of doing the typical stuff that all the schools, they have standard things lined up with agencies and everything else. I'm like, I really want to do something. I found Richard Bovee. Richard and Phyllis Bovee developed a very super special program in Bethlehem, Connecticut called Wellspring. It was a long-term therapeutic community. One of the things that was very amazing about that environment was, Richard as a person was a very incredibly charismatic, very soulful leader in the process. But it worked like a little farm, and so there was an immense connection, staff and clients and everyone. Like, one of the things that we would do is we'd cook together. And that was just like such a rich experience. And because it was run like a farm, they also raised some vegetables and some animals then that they would eat, right? So imagine that. You're really connected to the cycle of life when you raise the animal that you are then going to eat. We're a little removed from that as a society, most of us now. And my brother who built a house in Montana. He left Arizona and went to Montana to kind of live a self-sufficient life. I don't know if he was thinking he was going to be like Thoreau, who left the hustle bustle of that busy city of Concord, Mass. I mean, there was like maybe 1,500 people. It was so busy, back in the day. And he went to the pond, right? And he reportedly would stand in the pond with water up to here for hours upon end, just watching mosquitoes, living a self-sufficient life. I don't know if my brother was thinking he was doing that, but one of the things that he did is he built a house with basically his bare hands, like a saw and a chisel and a whatever. And you hear these stories. I hear these stories through my dad about people being quite amazed at what he was doing. One of the things I recollect him saying when they raised their own cow to eat, and when they take the cow to butcher themselves on their little homestead, pretty difficult, pretty tough. He said that kind of about makes you want to be a vegetarian. And so being connected with the life cycle, being connected with the people that actually are bringing our food from some place, from farms, and from really goes through a wholesaler and then to their store, to us, to our kitchen. It's nice to feel the connection. So across the street is Dave and Jen Booth, and it feels very nice to have that connection with people that actually own a place. Let me stir this real quick while we're talking. What I'm going to do here is we're going to cook all these greens a little bit. We're going to put the salmon right over here and a few shrimp. We're going to add a little bit of this ginger to the salmon. It's super delicious. Maybe a little more garlic, some salt and pepper. And that's going to be the meal tonight. So the whole family is actually, we're going to split this up and eat it. I did, in fact, also have one egg chopped up with a spoon, like a teaspoon of mayonnaise. I was a little bit hungry, so I needed a little something to keep me going. The other thing that we're going to have in this is I'm going to have a quarter of an avocado. So that's the meal here that we're working on now. Feeling pretty good. I did get a little tired for a little bit there. I'm feeling pretty good. I still have a number of nuts left that I'll probably have a nut with this, like I said earlier in the day. And I did take my my supplements that are important to me, and I'm feeling pretty good overall. So I'm going to eat a little bit more. We've got a big day ahead of us tomorrow, working with clients, teaching. It's a pretty busy day tomorrow, and I want to make sure that I am kind of well, kind of fed, I guess, that I have enough nutrients and energy sources, and that my body feels well cared for and taken care of. And that's pretty much it here for this meal. For later, I'll have a couple prepared little meals for depending on what I want and what I like. I've had what's been helpful lately is a little bit of egg salad with tablespoon of corn, tablespoon of peas, tablespoon of turnips has been very satisfying. So we're talking about just like one of these cups here, basically, an egg and those other things. They don't even add up to a whole thing. So I'll have a couple of those prepared. I'll also be flexible that if I feel that I need something maybe a little bit different, I know backup plan would be yogurt and some nuts. I might make a little bit of oatmeal. I usually, on oatmeal, I haven't had any yet on this whole thing except for some dry oatmeal with the nuts. But something like that, I'd have maybe 2 to 4 tablespoons of oatmeal at a time. I typically don't eat more than that with the oatmeal. I think it provides us some super good nutrients. It certainly provides us really good energy. Of all the grains, I think it's my favorite, aside from the ancient grains like amaranth, chia, quinoa. Oatmeal is, it's good. It's very fulfilling, oatmeal. Okay, so I'll have those ready. I have a little bit of pea milk and a little bit of cashew milk also ready to go. And I'm going to continue to use food as my medicine, to joyously embrace food as my point of connection with all the eco life inside of me and the ecosystem outside of me. And playing with portion size in a life-giving way. I am giving myself permission to eat anything that my body is asking me for, and I am slowing down and paying attention. And one of the themes today is a theme of basically what an interesting thing it is to imagine this. Well, and it's macadamia nut, right? But what if we didn't know what this was? We could slow down, feel it in our hands, get to know it by smelling it. We could feel it. I mentioned that my first class I ever taught at UMass Stress Reduction Clinic, I had a couple guys that were in wheelchairs, and they had, both of them had sensation in their neck and their mouth, right? They had a little bit of movement in fingers, right? They could barely feel. And then one of Steve asked me, he's like, I'm holding, right? And he's put it on my neck, right? So it's great because I had 30 people in my class, or a little bit more. I had a big class there, and it's like, so, and he just breathed that in, the feeling and the sensation. I was so amazed. It was such like an honor to just be in the practice with him. It was like extraordinary, right? You can take this and kind of just feel it. Like the sensation on your lips is different from the sensation on our fingers, you know? And that little bit of taste with your tongue, just like slowing everything down, really getting to know the food that we're eating, maybe for the first time. We have all these rich, diverse flavors, this, you know, and so I'm like, hey, I can eat anything that I want. This feeling of abundance, the feeling of just how amazing life is, the world that we live in, that we're surrounded by amazing energy, amazing plant life, amazing people, all in a great flow that we are a part of. And, you know, we are the mayors of the village that we are in charge of our bodies. And we can always choose decisions that are maybe feeling a little better, or decisions that feel more harmoniously aligned with the needs of our body and this deep wisdom that knows how to take care of us from the very, very beginning all the way through. Okay. Have a great evening. I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.